Hello and welcome to ADHD Adventures, where we shine the spotlight on fabulous ADHDers. Today I've got guest number 3 with me. I'm very excited to introduce you to Manny. Hi Manny, how are you doing?
Hello, not bad.
Good. Thank you so much for being my guest today. So what we're going to do, Manny, is we're going to just get straight into those questions. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. So, Manny, tell me, where do you come from and what do you do?
Well, I'm originally from Burgess Hill, which is a little town just outside of Brighton, but now I live in Hove, actually. And I'm a barber and a hairdresser, and I DJ on the weekends, you know, just for a bit of fun, really. Yeah, so barber slash DJ slash hairdresser from Hove.
Fabulous. A good all-round ADHD. So what
Yeah.
music do you like? People will want to know this.
To be honest, I'm very, very varied. I know people say, oh, eclectic and what have you, but I make music under 2 different identities. And one is house and garage, and one is like hip hop, like beats for rappers and stuff. So they're my 2 sort of main things. But I like old, I don't know if you can see, I've got funk and soul tattooed on my hands. Old funky soulful sort of vibe. Yeah, that's my thing.
And did I just see a tattoo of Prince on your hand as well?
Yeah, I've got Prince on that hand and James Brown on the other. 2 funky people.
So it sounds like music is a big passion of yours.
Definitely, yeah. It helps me sort of get out my own head and concentrate and hyper focus on one thing and shut out like lots of other things, you know. Yeah, music is like a meditation. It helps me with all of the ADHD and OCD things and stuff. Yeah.
Great. Brilliant. Okay, so tell me then, what led you to your ADHD diagnosis?
Well, basically, just before the pandemic hit, I had a sort of nervous breakdown of sorts, and I was signed off for about a year, and I've worked my whole entire life, never been signed off from work before, and after a year, I'm not sure if it's commonplace because, as I say, I've never been off work for any prolonged period of time. They sort of sent me for reassessment. I don't know if that's sort of commonplace after a year of being off, they maybe reassess you or what have you. But yeah, as a child, I had sort of things like nervous tics and obsessive compulsive things going on, and then an anxiety and what have you. And then sort of in my teens, I was told, oh no, it's depression. And then in my 20s, I was told, oh, it's bipolar. And so, yeah, I was very kind of shocked because they almost all interlink in a way, these things that I'm told, like obsessions and compulsions and intrusive thoughts and all these things going on. But yeah, the long and short of it is they sent me for reassessment, and I walked into the office and the woman said to me, right, take a seat. She said, I've gone through like your past history. And I see you've had nervous tics and you're in sort of support classes at school and this, that and the other. And she said, I'm willing to bet my career that you're actually ADHD. Not, she said, you can be bipolar as well as ADHD. But she said, I'm willing to bet you're more on the spectrum of sort of ADHD. And I was like, you know, I was kind of shocked because you're led to believe that ADHD is just like naughty boys at school who can't sit still and, you know, this, that and the other. So when she told me, I was like, really? And she said, yeah, here's some information. Go away, do a bit of research on adult ADHD. And she said, and I bet you'll be very surprised the amount of traits and things you actually have. And she said to me, does it bother you like what label you are, you know, what we call you? I said, no. I said, I'm just tired of suffering. You know, I don't care whether I'm bipolar, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, or a combination of all of them. I just want to get better and the correct treatment for, you know what I mean, what's going on. And the more I researched, sorry, I know I'm waffling now.
No, this is so useful, this information, because there'll be people watching this that are have been in a very similar position. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I hear that a lot of people get misdiagnosed bipolar or often suffer with not just one thing. You know, they maybe adopt obsessive compulsive disorders as a way of controlling and coping with neurodivergence or whatever, and vice versa. But yeah, basically, I've gone off. I've totally forgotten now. My train of thought's gone. That's
so
another.
the psychiatrist or whoever it was said to you, do you mind? And you said,
Yeah,
no, I just want to get the help
that
that I
was it.
need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing. My short-term memory, I realise now, is like wrecked. But so from what I'm told is that bipolar disorder and depression is it not serotonin? What's the other one?
Dopamine,
No, yeah, sorry.
serotonin.
Bipolar disorder is serotonin, and ADHD is dopamine. So she said you may be getting treatment for like a low level of serotonin, when actually it's the dopamine that we need to rectify, you know. So I just thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. I put myself in their hands, and yeah, I've been having counselling, and I've joined a few groups, which is how I discovered yourself. Thanks very much for shining a light on, you know what I mean, people. I love what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. And yeah, I've joined some ADHD groups online, and I'd like to do some in person.
Dogs barking.
Yeah.
I'm just going to.
Yeah, so basically, after the woman telling me to go and do some online research, I started following sort of YouTube channels and things of people who struggle with ADHD. And then on Facebook and stuff, I thought, oh, why not add some groups and see what people have got to say about it and do some research, you know, try and understand myself and others a bit more, really. Yeah, and I'd like to do some sort of local groups, you know, in the Brighton and Hove area. I'm sure there's a few about, and as I say, that's how I discovered yourself, was just by adding these groups and pages and other people who, you know, understand it, really.
And that's, yeah, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because it can be a confusing time, can't it, when you've just been given this information and it's like, where do I go? So there is support out there. You do have to find it. So good, and I'm glad here we are because of the group.
Exactly.
What would you say is different now that you know you have ADHD, plus other things? I mean, come on, it's not one thing, is it?
There's lots of things that I've always, in my, you know, like your gut feeling and inside, I've always felt I'm a bit different. Not saying I'm special or anything like that, just different. So like with the way my friends think and the things they think about and talk about and the way they are, I've always, even as a child, and part of these pages and groups, a lot of the memes and funny things they share and that, which I think is brilliant to sort of make light and understand and, you know, have a laugh about it as well, because I've learned to now embrace it as sort of part of who I am. And it was kind of like, when she told me, like I said, I was really shocked. I was like, but that's naughty boys who can't sit still and who are fidgety and, you know, but later on, when I was educated more in it, I found out that I don't have the hyperactivity traits, believe it or not, even though I waffle and go on, and I'm constantly, you know, can't sit still, what have you. Apparently I don't have the hyperactivity, which is why in women as well, I'm told it goes undiagnosed a lot of the time and unnoticed. So I tend to sort of procrastinate and, you know, shut down a lot and things. And these are all things that I'm learning along the way. When you're told, oh, it's just naughty boys at school who can't sit still, and that's a very one-dimensional sort of way of looking at it. There's a broad spectrum, isn't there? And when I went for the self-assessment, I was told that I have 5 of the 7 traits. So, you know, and they're pretty sort of high level. So, you know, I'm very surprised it wasn't picked up sooner. Yeah. But I think, you know, when you and I were younger, it wasn't such a thing, wasn't it? It was just misunderstood. Oh, they must be naughty or dyslexic or this or that. And we just think differently is what I've learned, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So it sounds like there's a level of awareness, understanding, and would you say some acceptance there of how
I think
you're different?
you have to accept it. When you've spent your whole life thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I different? You know, why don't I think like the average Joe? Blah, blah, blah. And then you're told, oh, there's something going on there, like neurodivergence wise. You have to accept it and go, it's kind of, it was a release and a weight off my shoulders. But also, I'm very hard on myself. And I thought, right, I don't want to start making excuses for things now. Oh, that's because I'm ADHD, or that's this and that's that. Because when you're like me and you think too much, you can look into everything too much, you know. So yeah, part of me was like, oh, it's a relief. I've finally been, if they are correct, which I hope they are, if I've finally been diagnosed as what I am, and all these years I've been told, oh, you have anxiety and OCD and this and that, and treated for the wrong thing, to be finally told, and hopefully this is the correct diagnosis. It's an amazing thing, you know, to have suffered nearly 40 years. I'm 38 years old, and now we're playing around with medications and treatments and things, and hopefully I'm on the right path, you know. And if not, then it's another thing ticked off the list of what it might not be. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of an imposter syndrome thing there of like, oh, you know, maybe I'm not then, you know, and because of being misdiagnosed so many different things, I'm very wary, you know.
And this comes up time and time and again.
Really.
The imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm fine. Maybe I'm this. Maybe I'm that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't doubt 100% there's something different about me and something not normal, shall we say, like the quote unquote normal, whatever that is these
Yeah.
days. But I just want to know for once, for sure, if that's what it is, how can I work with it and make it a strength and not a weakness, and learn coping mechanisms? And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. I don't want to suffer in silence, which is why I'm talking out to people like yourself, in a hope that other people might hear it and go, oh, you know, I don't have to be ashamed of this or ashamed of that, you know.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. That is exactly why I'm doing this TV series. So brilliant. Right. So tell me about some of your strengths then.
Well, for me, ADHD and OCD and those sorts, I have to lump them together because they're two very sort of opposing, but, you know, integral parts of it, I think, for me. When it's pointed in the right direction, it's a superpower. It's amazing, you know, like I can hyper focus on something that I'm obsessed with and do it. And before I know, 3 hours have gone past and I'm like, oh, wow, you know, and I'm lost in my own little world and I'm happy and loving it, which is what the music provides me, you know. But if it's pointed in the wrong direction with things like intrusive thoughts and obsessions, which is why I think as a child I had the nervous tics. You know, you're saying to yourself, don't look over your shoulder, and you can't stop doing it, you know. And the more you obsess and try and fight and battle it, the more you're going to lose the battle, you know, which is why I think acceptance of these things is a good thing. Just cut yourself some slack. Go, all right, so what? I look over my shoulder occasionally. You're not harming no one, do you know what I mean? And that's it, you know, it's not a big deal. And when that pressure eases off, those tics and things ease off, I find. But when I get in a stressful situation again, I start to do them occasionally, like I crack my jaw or, you know, silly little things like that. But I find when it's pointed in the right direction, it's an amazing thing. It's a double-edged sword, you know. It's just when it's not, and you have these intrusive thoughts, like it's not even a whole record, but a part of a record going round in my head again and again and again. And it's so frustrating. You're thinking, if someone said to you, don't think of the color red, the first thing you're going to think of is the color red, you know. And that's what happens. But I read a funny meme about it the other day, and it did tickle me because it was so, and it said that ADHD is like having 6 or 7 windows open on a computer. You know, that's going on, and where's that music coming from? Like, and that's exactly what it feels like to me. Is like I'm thinking about the past, the present, the future, and there's this music going on, and it's like,
Yeah. So yeah, it can get a bit crazy. So
it can
like
get
you
too
said,
much, which is why you're tired a lot of the time. You know, imagine trying to fight things in your head, and I don't want to be that way. You know, it's an awful thing. But like I said, the positives from it are when you hyper focus and you're into something. Like I know I used to cut this young lad's hair years ago, and he was autistic, and he never ever sort of spoke to me much and come out of his shell much. But his mum told me, "Oh, talk about Lego." And as soon as we got on the subject of Lego, you just saw him like lighten up and come to life, and you couldn't stop him talking about it, you know. And it was like, oh, that's all it is that you don't want to waste your time and energy talking about things that are just pointless. And unfortunate, as a barber, you have to go, oh, you're going on your holidays and isn't the weather nice, and have all those chats first. But within 10 minutes, I'm on to a conversation of, oh, so you have a bit more depth and substance, because I don't know, I just find things like that boring. I'm not very, and that's another thing. If you are bored or you don't like something, you can't do it. You can't cram it in your head, you know. And that's what I learned at school was, you know, if it was art or poetry, you couldn't stop me. I had, you know, a different thought process to most people, very creative. But if it was mathematics or science, it was just like overload and meltdown. And no matter how much I tried to cram it in, it wouldn't go in, you know.
yeah, oh God, and the same, you know, I really identify with that.
Yeah.
Maths and science, it just didn't compute at all.
No.
But like sports, English, art, I was there. So
There you go.
it's about,
And
yeah,
we're all different, aren't we? That's the thing. And I understand that the school system, it's hard because they're trying to teach so many children, and they have to have a curriculum and what have you. But a lot of the school system is set up based on memory. And I have the worst memory in the world. If it's history, it's remembering dates. If it's mathematics, it's, you know, numbers and sums and times tables. And a lot of it is memory based, you know. Your spellings is just remembering what order, you know, things to go in. And I think a lot of things get overlooked when people are intelligent in other ways, you know, like creatively, or, you know. But that's one thing about ADHD is I think you think outside the box, you're a bit unorthodox, and you suss out ways to the things that no one else would have thought of. You know what I mean?
exactly. And it really is about tapping into those strengths, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there are challenges, of course there are. So let's make the challenges a bit easier to deal with by focusing.
You know, you get dealt a hand of cards in life, don't you? And if you haven't been dealt the memory card, well, then you play the different way of looking at a card. Or do you know what I mean? It's not the cards you've been dealt, it's how you play them. And what I'm learning now is with ADHD, if it's pointed in the wrong direction, it's a horrible thing to have. But if you can utilize it and just guide it back to, you know, in the right direction, you can fly. I think it's an amazing thing, you know. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword. I think it's both a gift and a curse, you know.
Yeah, of course. So have you got a funny story or humorous story that's related to ADHD or any of your other neurodivergencies?
Oh God, there's probably loads, but off the top of my head, it's hard to think. Just silly little things, like I say, about the way you look at things, or that, you know, like I'll be watching a movie and it might be a thriller or a head messing one, like a murder mystery, and I'll go, oh, that's what's happened. And like my girlfriend at the time, or previous girlfriends, have gone, how did you know that? Like, and it's like, because you think outside the box a bit, you know what I mean? And or I'll pick up things and I'll go, oh, she was smoking half a cigarette, flicked it, and now she's smoking one again. And it's, you know what I mean? It's like a little thing they've missed in filming it or something, I'll just pick up on.
And really good observation skills then.
Yeah. Or just silly thing. I remember also going to the dogs on a works do in Brighton. And me and the other lad who was there, we were the only two lads. It was all girls because of hairdressing and that. And I remember he was ADHD. And we both come to this conclusion that what we were going to do, because there's no form with dogs and what have you, we're just going to bet on number one for all 10 races, so we could have a drink, relax and enjoy the evening. And, you know, if number one comes in, then we know we've won, sort of thing. And that's the kind of like thinking outside of the box thing that some people, you know, might not think, oh, that's a clever idea, or oh, that's ridiculous, or, you know, but just silly little ways of working things to your advantage. And maybe, you know, just, yeah, just, you can't help it. You think the way you think, you are who you are, and you are the way you are. So why not, you know, use it to your advantage as and when, you know.
Yeah, such good advice. Really
Yeah.
good.
I can't, I don't know, funny stories are a hard one. There's so many silly things that crop up, isn't there?
Oh
I'm sure
gosh,
you've got
yeah.
some of your own, you know what I mean?
Yes, I have. I have on my blog. So
I'll check that
fine
out. Brilliant.
finally, Manny, what one piece of advice would you give to somebody that's just been diagnosed and is a bit confused or lost?
Uh, I would say just go easy on yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because, and accept it as it's part. I can't get a bit emotional now for some reason. Accept it as it's part of who you are. Not everyone's the same, and it's, you know, it can be a good thing if it's used and pointed in the right direction. God, I don't know why I don't get emotional, but
Yeah, of course.
yeah, it's not a bad thing. You know, you're told, oh, you're different, or you're this, or you're that. So what? What's bad about being different? Do you know what I mean? And because a lot of people, when I shared, oh, I'm possibly ADHD, I've had a test, this, that, and the other, people were like, well, I've got that, I do this, I do that. And it's like, you can always go, oh, maybe I'm this, you know, seek professional help, get it diagnosed professionally, then go from there. Because otherwise you're saying, oh, I'm this, I'm that. And you may not be. It might be, look at me, I've been professional help my whole life and told I'm this and then I'm that, you know. So I would say, yeah, if you've just been diagnosed, it can be like a weight off your shoulders. Like, oh, okay, so I understand a lot more of why I was like that as a child. And you get told you're an old soul, or you've got an old head on your shoulders, or, you know, but just cut yourself some slack. You know what I mean? That's what I'd say. And just continually work on yourself. Because meeting people like you'll teach me something you said the other day, and I thought, oh, I never thought of it like that. Or being part of a group. And yeah, it gives you more empathy, I think, and understanding for people who do think differently and outside the box. You know, I have more of a, for people with other neurodivergence, you know, like autism and this, that, and the other, you're willing to have more patience because you think, oh, okay, well, it's not that something's not going on there. It's just that they think of it differently and express it differently. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, empathy. Empathy is such a
Yeah.
huge thing, and compassion,
For
which
yourself
is,
and other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, exactly. Not just for others, for yourself.
Yeah, we
Thank
often overlook ourselves, don't we? You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, and then that comes at a cost. So, Manny, thank you so much for being on guest
That's all
number
right.
3, and yeah,
I
have
really
a
appreciate it. And thank you so much for what you're doing, because a lot of people like myself, you deal with things like I overshare. That's one thing I hate. And I overshare everything. A lot of my friends say to me, oh, you shouldn't share so much of yourself and this, that, and the other. But it's therapy for some people. Some people like to get it off their chest and talk, you know. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. And I really appreciate it. And you're amazing.
oh, thank you so much.
All right.